Hello, fellow FM players. Welcome to a new YouTube channel, FM with Data Science. I am not yet sure if this will be a full-blown YouTube channel, if this is just going to be a one-off video, but either way, this is a channel where I will be looking to apply my data science knowledge to Football Manager to gain new insights and share them with the community, and hopefully we can all learn something new. So in this first video, I've done some research on player development for Football Manager 2024. Now, of course, this video is going to be very low budget. I am not a YouTuber. This is literally a PowerPoint presentation, but do stick with me. I aim here to do the most in-depth research yet into player development, and I think there are various insights that you will like to know. So I'm going to start with some previous work, to talk about some of the previous work done. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about data extraction and handling, how I did all of that, how I built my model. Then, of course, what really matters and what you're here for, the results. I'm also going to group those results by age and the conclusions. I will be putting timestamps in the video if I can figure out how that's done, because I have no idea. And I'm not going to go too in-depth, so it's fine for you to watch the most technical part of the video, because I'm not going to get technical about it, really. I think it adds context. The context is important when we are, when we're talking about data. So previous work done, I have done some research on FM21. In fact, I did it with Zealand. So if you recall, there was a fairly controversial Zealand video titled Determination Doesn't Matter. So I was the guy doing the research behind that. So I was trying to figure out which of the three attributes that are said to affect player development: professionalism, determination, and ambition, which one mattered most. And I found that professionalism mattered more than determination, which mattered a lot more than ambition. Ambition, actually, very little evidence of it mattering at all in that study. So the title was a little bit clickbaity for sure, but the difference between professionalism and determination was significant. And that challenged the current perspective at the time, which was that determination was the single most important attribute when it came to player development. And for the first time, while we all knew that personality was a big part of it, but for the first time, that view was kind of challenged, that maybe determination wasn't all of that. There was other work also performed by others, as well as a follow-up to my work. The findings weren't that different overall, but I feel like most of the research, including my original research, had several shortcomings. So first of all, the size of the sample is often just not big enough. My study had maybe like n is equal to 90, I'd say. I'm not sure right now. Sometimes the environment is just way too controlled. So what researchers sometimes do is isolate all of the variables. That's what I've done, what I did as well, where I gave every single club perfect training facilities. I made sure to, I'm pretty sure I also did the staff and all of that stuff, put them all at the maximum, and basically, eliminated all other variables like injury proneness. I removed it. I just controlled the environment as much as possible so we could focus just on the three variables that I cared for, and that is often what people do. I feel like that gets rid of any potential interactions between variables, and it kind of simplifies what Football Manager really is. It doesn't necessarily reflect, well, the reality, because it's a very controlled environment. It's just not a real environment, and often the models used are too simplistic. I use the linear regression. If you're not familiar with linear regressions, they're basically the most basic form of machine learning. It's drawing a line that best fits the data. That's basically all it is. And so I'm going to address this in this new experiment. So I'm using a completely unedited FM save. So just booted up an FM save, didn't do anything to the database, didn't change anything, just completely natural. I'm going to use more robust models than linear regression, and we're going to use 30,000 data points, which I think is enough to make some solid statements. And we're going to be testing a variety of different variables, so not just professionalism, determination, and ambition. We're also going to be investigating training facilities, minutes played, and a lot more. So there are some limitations. So first of all, I think I will just open up here my FM. So what we have here is the amount of leagues that I loaded. So I picked 10 leagues in Europe, so that they would all be summer leagues, not summer leagues, leagues that stop in the summer. So they will stop and start and stop about the same time. I loaded 10 of the biggest nations, and I loaded every single league that is available in the base Football Manager. So it's quite a few leagues here. I have also went into the preferences, loaded every single detail. The level of detail is set to a maximum for every single game in every single competition. And what you can do is, of course, come here to the shortlist. I have a unemployed manager here, and I can see all of the information. And these are all the players from the leagues that are loaded. And I'm keeping track of a lot of information on these players, so their name, but that doesn't actually matter. I can't get rid of it, but the name doesn't matter. What we can just use is the unique ID that uniquely identifies the player, so that's really all we need. Club, we won't use it directly. It's not like the name of the club affects the player's development, of course. Position, age, we do have a date of birth here as well, just to get an exact age and not just the age. And then, of course, every single attribute that you could expect to affect player development, and that I'm testing just in case. So we have professionalism, determination, ambition, minutes played. Of course, we are in the beginning of the save, so there are no minutes played and no average rating. Important matches, I don't see why that would matter, but that affects average rating, which in turn can affect player development, or at least that's the belief. Pressure, just in case. Consistency, adaptability, injury proneness, world repetition, which again I don't see why it would matter, and then the important attributes, so the current ability and the potential ability. So what I do is I simulate 1 year into the future, so up to May 30th actually, which is close enough to the end of the season. I just don't go any further because of loans. Some loans end on May 31st, and I like to use those in my dataset, so I don't really go a full year technically into the future, but it's basically a full season into the future. And I'm going to track at the end of the season how many minutes were played, the average rating, and of course the new current ability. So what that's going to look like is going to be this very big Google Sheets here. So basically we have the player's unique ID. So this is the start. This is from the original save. So you can get this information, by the way, if you don't know. You can Control A to select all players. I won't do that because that takes a little bit. And then just print screen here, do web page, and you can easily import this into Google Sheets. So we have here all of the information that we have here, imported into here. Now we have minutes and average rating that's already been filled out. We also have training facilities and the reputation of the league, and we have the final current ability. So we get all of that from here. So this is the export from the end. So at the end of the season, I import all of the data again, and because I know the unique ID, I can track it so I can put the minutes from this sheet into here, matching the ID, of course. Do the same with average rating, do the same with the current ability. And for training facilities, the issue was that I actually had to by hand put the training facilities of each team in every single league. So this is like 870 teams here. That wasn't fun. That was the worst part of all of this. And also like the league reputations, that was easy. And basically this is the information we have. So I think it's most of the information that can possibly affect player development. Now, there are some limitations. So coaching attributes are not controlled. So the staff of a club is going to affect how players develop. We can't really control that. There aren't numbers that we can export to a Google Sheets that can measure that, unfortunately. So I don't think that's anything we can really control. Getting more data would be time consuming unless I automate a few things. So what I mean by that is, well, the training facilities. I don't know a way to get training facilities fast. I know it should be possible because if you go like here, this skin which I'm using, which is like the SAS skin, here I'm in Greece for some reason, but it does have this training facilities thing, which you can sort by, but it doesn't give you the training facilities number. If anyone develops a skin, because this information we can export, we can easily print this into a Google Sheets. If anyone can build a skin that actually puts the number here and not a description of training facilities, that would be a huge help, and we would be able to do more than one season without having to every single season manually see the training facilities of every single team in a database. That would be a huge help. And also, we are not separating by position except for goalkeeper. So we are separating goalkeeper from outfield players. It is hard in FM to actually say, like, if I import all of the information, this guy, I have no idea what position he plays. So he can play 4 different positions. I don't know what position is being counted as his position. If I open it up, and I can see like it looks to be left wing, but I can't export that. At least I don't know how to export that directly. So there is another limitation. Of course, development is going to change a lot from position to position. But we're not going to be able to track that. So there may be other variables that affect player development that I'm just not considering because I don't know or I'm forgetting. So if there's anything you'd like me to test, do let me know. And yeah, so the fact we can only go 1 year forward, that is stopping us from analyzing regens. So after extracting all of that data into Google Sheets, I extracted to Python. And in Python, I can actually get an exact age. So this is just a look at our data going into the modeling part. So we have a goalkeeper flag. So it's 1 if the player is a goalkeeper and 0 otherwise. We have an exact age, so not just an integer. Then we have all the information I was talking about. So professionalism, determination, ambition, yada, yada, yada. And here margin is important. So margin is how much the player can improve. So it's basically just potential ability minus current ability. And this is the growth, which is how much the player actually improved that season. Of course, the player can decay, like this first player decayed by 11. And so what we're going to do is we're going to build a model. We're going to build a model that takes the goalkeeper flag, the age, the professionalism, determination, all of these numbers, and it predicts this last one. So if I have a player who is 34.06, whatever, has 7 professionalism, has 8 determination, has 11 ambition, yada, 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 plays in the division with 107 reputation, how much do I expect him to grow? So we're going to build a model that can predict that. Now, the model prediction is not really the relevant part. Having a model that predicts player growth is cool, but a lot of this information is hidden from a player that is not using the editor, which I think is the majority of players, and players that are using the editor, well, I guess I don't know if they're so obsessed with getting the best out of player development because they could cheat. I don't know. Honestly, I've never really played a save with editor. No judgment. Do whatever you want. That's the point of the game. Either way, I don't think the prediction is the important part. What's important is how does the model do that prediction? So first of all, what models do we use? I do start with linear regression, which is a simple model I was talking about. It gets a mean square error of 13.77. So mean square error is just, well, it's the average squared error. So the squared error, or rather the error, is just going to be the difference between what the model predicts and the real value. Then we square that, that's the square error. And if we take the mean of that for all of the predictions, we get the mean square error, which is 13.77 for linear regression. We use an approach with neural networks. I'm sorry I say we a lot. I did this myself, so I'm just one dude. I did not have multiple personalities, whatever. So neural networks do get an MSE of 7.98. Neural networks are really cool. They're usually the best approach for basically any problem as long as you have enough data. It looks like 30,000 is not enough data, however, because I actually get a better performance using XGBoost. XGBoost's an approach using decision trees. Doesn't matter. What matters is this is the best predictor. The mean absolute error, so that's just the average error, forget the square, is 1.81, which means the model is off in predicting the growth of a player by 1.8 on average, which obviously is not perfect. No model is perfect, and that is not the point. The point is not to be perfect, it is to be useful. And so XGBoost has a better predicting ability. It's also easy to interpret. So the interpretation of the model is the important part. When I say interpretation of the model, what I mean is I don't care about having a model that predicts. I just care about knowing how it predicts. So if I ask the model, okay, how did you conclude that this player is going to grow by this much? And the model is going to tell me, okay, so I looked at this attribute, and I looked at this attribute, and I looked at this attribute. So it's basically going to tell us what attributes matter most in predicting player development, which is exactly what we want to know. So we're going to be using SHAP values and partial dependence plots. SHAP values are just a value that measures how influential a variable is to the model. That's all. Partial dependence plots are basically going to give us a plot of how that variable affects the model. So it's a bit more it's a bit different. So here are the results. So this is what you care about. So the first variable, the variable that affects the model output the most, is age. That is no surprise. Player being 16 or being 42 is going to develop very differently. So I should explain how what this means. So from blue to red, we have the feature value. So blue means low, red means high. So these red points in age means a high age, and these blue points in age mean a low age. So these are young players, these are old players. And so to the right, so on the x-axis is going to be the impact on model output. So to the right, it affects the model prediction positively. So that is more growth, and to the left, it affects it negatively. So less growth. So obviously, young players grow more than old players. So that's how to read this, and that makes sense. An interesting thing is the margin. So remember, the margin is how much a player can improve. Potential ability minus current ability. And one thing I've always wondered is if two players have the exact same attributes, but one and exact same current ability, but one can grow by 20 and the other one can grow by 40, are they going to grow at the same rate? The answer is no. So players with a higher margin are going to grow faster, independent of every other attribute. Current abilities here, there's no clear pattern here, so we won't address that. More minutes means more development. This is also pretty expected, and minutes being this high up is no surprise, as well as training facilities. So I know people are going to focus mostly on determination, professionalism, and ambition. So we do see here determination above professionalism, actually. Now, I should say that this measures how the model makes predictions. It doesn't necessarily mean that determination matters more than professionalism, and we'll get a clearer answer on that. and also they're pretty close to each other, right? They're right next to each other. Division reputation, playing in a better league means better development. That is also no surprise. Goalkeeper flag is a bit all over the place. That will become clear in a bit. Ambition does affect it positively, but it is much lower. And average rating, also quite low. World reputation, which we didn't really expect to affect it, is here, and kind of the opposite of what you'd expect. Higher reputation means less growth. I'm actually not sure what to make of this. And injury proneness, while it affects negatively a player, is quite low. Now, there is something important to say about injury proneness. Because we have all of these variables, they are going to get in the way of each other sometimes. So obviously a player that is injury prone, when a player gets injured, there are two things that are happening. They are playing less minutes, and they are also being affected by the injury itself. Now, because we are measuring minutes, hopefully, if the model is working as we would expect, it's separating the effect of not playing and the effect of the injury itself. So what I mean by that is, obviously a player that is injured 2 months and the player that doesn't play 2 months, they're not going to have the same development. Being injured 2 months is worse. So minutes should also include basically the minutes you're missing by injury, right? And injury proneness should hopefully measure just the effect of the injury itself and not the time you're missing from the injury itself, which is maybe why it's lower than you'd expect. Consistency, important matches, adaptability, pressure. These were whole here just in case, and clearly they probably could just not be here because they don't seem to matter. So let's look at the partial dependence plots. So how to read these? Basically, in the x-axis, in this case, we have age. And the y-axis is basically the average growth predicted by the model. So for example, for 20-year-olds, the average growth predicted by the model is about 2.5. So that's just going to mean if you average out every single data point that a model is looking at, it predicts 20-year-olds to grow by 2.5 on average. Obviously, it could be 20, it could be -2. It's on average is the important part. So averaging every single observation. So we're just looking at age and kind of freezing every other attribute. So here, not a great insights, right? So the older you are, the less you develop. So at 0 is going to be peak, basically, where growth is 0. And the peak predicted by the model seems to be at about like 28, 29. And then the decline is quite fast, actually. Margin, just, kind of increases. The more margin have to improve, the more you improve. Grindability, this is weird. I'm actually not quite sure what to make of this right here. Gonna skip past it. If anyone has any comments on it, do let me know. Minutes just kind of positively affects it. I wouldn't say there's any interesting shape. Now here is where maybe we have the first insight here. So training facilities, up until they reach 5, they don't really seem to matter that much, and they do increase up to about 17, and then past 17, I wouldn't pay much attention to it going down. I don't think that makes sense. Obviously, model is imperfect, but not much evidence of training facilities above 17 actually mattering, so that is interesting. Determination, big increase from like 3 to 6, and then a more steady increase up to like 18, where it also does seem to stop mattering. But one thing we can look in these plots is also the range. So 1 determination seems to have an average growth of 1.5. 20 determination seems to have an average growth of close to 4, so like let's say like 3.8. So we're looking at the range of like 2.2 maybe, while for training facilities the range is also similar. I'd say about 2 here, 1.75 to 3.75. and I won't do that for all of them. But here, for professionalism, we see that that range is about 3 point something. So actually higher than determination, so it has a bigger range. It does seem to affect it a bit differently, so these are quite different plots, and we'll go over them in a bit in more detail. So so up until like, I think this is like 8 or 9, doesn't matter a lot, and then it starts increasing really fast, and once it gets to 15, it does not increase that much anymore. So that is interesting. Before we go into ambition, the division reputation, so the league reputation, I wouldn't pay much mind to this plot because there's only so many leagues and they all have, just one number. So there aren't many different numbers going into the model when it comes to this variable. So it leads to a really confusing plot, but it's kind of increasing. Ambition, there is a very weird irregularity here. Again, I wouldn't really pay much mind to it, but if you look at the kind of range of it, it's about 1.4. So that is, I think, interesting. It's less than determination for sure, and less than professionalism. Average rating, might I add, not a very big range. Does seem to stop at about 7.5, but not many players are getting an average rating of 7.5. So maybe just low amounts of data here, and just kind of a steady increase. Injury proneness also has this weird behavior here, which I wouldn't pay much attention to. But looking at this range, about 0.8, just not that much at all, but it is steadily decreasing past a point. So now we're going to group them by age group. So basically now we're just going to look at under 20 players and how the model predicts the output for under 20 players. And very interestingly, we're going to do this in 4 age groups. So we're going to do under 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, and past 30. We could use other age groups. This is just what I settled on. I could even do it by year, but we'll never get out of here. So the margin is actually the most important attribute in predicting player growth in young players. So if your young player is developing quite well early on, it's probably not even because of its engine attributes. It probably just has a big margin to grow, which is good. Current abilities here, again, looks weird. Age is still a factor, being 16, being 20, different things, or 19 because it's under 20. Training facilities are a big factor, determination is a big factor. Here in the goalkeeper flag, so these are the goalkeepers, these are the outfit players. Clearly goalkeepers develop less in this age, that's also expected. Professionalism is a big factor, minutes played. Division reputation kind of a bit all over the place here. Ambition shows up here, still below professionalism and determination. Now we're going to look at just 5 variables that are usually considered to be the most important and are the variables that are kind of under our control. So it's the big 3: professionalism, determination, ambition. We're also going to look at training facilities and the minutes played. So we're going to do that for each age group. And for this age group, determination, I would like to highlight, there's a big increase until we reach 6. And then past that, the increase still exists, right? It's still increasing, but it's much less. So it looks like at this young age, you mostly want your player to have at least 6 determination, and of course higher is better, but having at least 6 is the most important. The range seems to be about 3.5. I'll stop counting the ranges because I have that later actually. Professionalism, as also an interesting behavior, is very much increasing, and it starts kind of going up, so it's not linear. It seems to be a bit exponential actually, up until it reaches 15, and then it just stops increasing altogether. So it looks like at a young age, 15 professionalism is perfect. You don't need anything else, which is absolutely great. Ambition, again, has a weird behavior in the beginning. I wouldn't pay much mind to it, but it does seem to just be increasing. It does kind of stop at 16, but I don't know how important that is. The plot stops at 18 because I guess there just wasn't any data past that, or not enough data past that. Minutes played, there is a big increase right at the beginning, and then there's just kind of a steady increase, big jump here. I don't know if that means a lot, but more minutes, the better. That's really what we can take from this. Training facilities, again, it looks like up to 5 that don't matter a lot, and again, it looks like past 17, then it kind of peaks there. So at 20 to 25, margin is still very big, it's here in second, but actually minutes played is what shows up really high, and interestingly, division reputation. So at this age, it's all about getting minutes, it's all about getting minutes in a good league. That's what's gonna help development. Age is still a factor, of course. Here we actually see current abilities start to matter. So current ability is going to kind of correlate with margin a lot, which is why it's going to show up high up a lot. Training facilities still matter. Professionalism now is above determination in this age. Average rating shows up, and ambition really low this time, really low. Injury proneness, by the way, still just not really a factor at this stage. Determination just kind of increasing in this age range. More determination, the better. I wouldn't say. I mean, it's not really aligned, but no, I don't really detect an interesting pattern. For professionalism, actually doesn't change a lot until we reach like 11, and then it's a very big increase. But it doesn't have the 15 ceiling now, so more professionalism is better in this age. Ambition is weird, so it has a very small increase and then it has gigantic increase. I think this is just weird behavior from not having that much data, because I don't think that big of an increase is really justified. Especially because like this range is too high for ambition. It doesn't really match what we see of ambition in every single other plot, so I would ignore that big bump. Minutes, more minutes, the better. That's basically what we're looking at. And training facilities again, and now it looks like it's at 16 that it peaks. So weird behavior for training facilities that we're finding. For 25 to 30, age starts being a big factor. 25 you're still increasing, probably 30 you're starting decaying, so this age group's a bit weird. Minutes matter, margin matters, division reputation matters. Then of course our good friends, determination, professionalism, here goalkeepers are developing quite better, of course. Training facilities, injury proneness finally shows up, and ambition is low still, with average rating just above it. So determination does have a weird kind of valley here. I wouldn't pay much mind to it, but you would like the determination to be at least 10 at this age, it looks like, and then it's a steady increase. Professionalism, it looks like you just need it to be 6. I don't know if, again, it's just kind of lack of data here, but 6 professionalism at least seems to be very important, and then it doesn't increase by that much. Ambition, it looks like you need it to be at least 8 at this age. And then it's kind of a steady increase, not a very big range here. Minutes played, more the better really, and training facilities here, finally it does seem that more the better, right? 20 actually matters in this age. So finally, over 30, age is going to be a big factor. That makes sense, being 30 or being 42 is going to be very different. Professionalism actually now shows up quite high. Clearly the king of the hidden attributes here. Injury proneness finally shows up, so this is where injuries themselves, and not the minutes, the injuries themselves really start affecting a player. Goalkeepers still develop better, of course. Minutes is a bit weirder, and of course determination is still here. Ambition is here. It's, far down. Interestingly, training facilities, look how low they are. So determination, kind of a steady increase. It till it reaches like 16, then it doesn't seem to increase much further. But yeah, determination does help. So at this point, we're not talking about growth, we're talking about preventing decay, really, and determination helps with that. And so does professionalism. It seems to kind of peak there at about 18. Could be just lack of data. Not that many players have that much professionalism, but yeah, professionalism helps a lot with player decay. Ambition, very interesting behavior. You really just need 7 of it. If you have 7 ambition, you're fine, and then past that, doesn't really affect player decay. Minutes played has, for the first time, a weird kind of behavior. I can't really quite explain it, but there's a little bit of a valley here. So you'd like to play at least like 3,000 minutes. If you don't play at all, it's not ideal, but it's somehow apparently better than playing about 1,500 minutes. I don't know why, but that's just kind of what the model is telling us. Training facilities, do look at these numbers here. These numbers are quite close together. Like this is 0.2 from top to bottom, about that. So this shape is, if you zoom out just a little bit, it's basically a line. Training facilities do not matter at this age, so that is one of the findings. Training facilities help player growth, they do not help player decay. Just not a factor. So here we have a review with the ranges. So that's what I was talking about. So like this has a range of 0.2 basically. I'm just calling it 0 actually, but yes, at the different age groups, at under 20s, professionalism has a range of 5. So that's basically getting the min value minus the top value. Player with 1 professionalism and the player with 20 professionalism will have a difference in growth of about 5 on average. That's basically what I mean. We have 3.5 for determination and 2 for ambition. Training facilities, 3 and minutes 4. And then when we move to 2025, to age 20s to 25, minutes increase in importance while everything else, well, it's not like they decrease in importance, players just don't grow as much here, but at this age, minutes played is about as important as every single other one added. So this one, because they had weird plots, ambitions like 0.5 or 2, depending if you're counting that weird behavior, I bolded the number that I think makes more sense, which is 0.5, and here 0.8. It's also a bit of a weird plot, but yeah, 25 to 30. 0.8 for professionalism, 0.65 for determination, 0.4 for ambition, and at over 30, training facilities don't matter, minutes still matter, and professionalism matters a lot. Basically matters determination plus ambition together. So really, professionalism is always a little bit above determination. In growth, it's a little bit. In decay, it's quite a bit. So yes, professionalism does seem to matter more than determination, but it's not that far off. Ambition is clearly the worst of the 3, but it still matters, particularly early on, and then it kind of falls off really fast. Training facilities help grow, do not help decay, and minutes are supremely important in this age group. So conclusions, I've already kind of said a few of them. So professionalism, better than determination, better than ambition at all ages. That is basically the key takeaway here. But the differences are not really quite as large as was previously stated. Training facilities matter about as much as determination, but only affect growth and do not help with decay. So that's something I personally didn't know. The positive effect of average rating is fairly small. So a lot of people have always been hyping up how much playing well affects actual growth. And it does seem to, but not by much. And also I was surprised by how little injuries themselves mattered. They really only matter at the higher age. Of course, minutes played matter. The margin of growth of a player has a huge effect on his yearly growth. I didn't know this. I speculated it could be the case, but I didn't really not know how big of an effect it was. Consistency, adaptability, pressure, important matches, they don't matter. They could help you play better and therefore develop better. But yeah, so that's going to be measured by the average rating here, which again does not matter that much. So conclusions for the under 20 age group. So at this stage, the margin of progression has a huge impact. Determination should be at least 6, and at that point the impact of every single point is much smaller, though it's still the better, the more the better. Professionalism completely seems to stop mattering at 15. Playing even just 230 or 300 minutes can have a pretty big impact, but actually minutes played has a fairly small impact in this age group compared to others. It's the only one where it matters less than professionalism. Well, except for in the growth stage at least. Training facilities seem to stop mattering past 17. League reputation is not a huge factor at this point, and injuries do not really seem to matter a lot, except for, of course, the minutes played. So for 20 to 25, margin is still important, but at this stage it's all about getting a lot of playtime and getting it in a good league. Professionalism up to 11 does not change growth a lot, but at that point it starts increasing, and it does go up to 20. Ambition has a fairly small impact, as do injuries, and training facilities again seem to stop mattering at high values, so that's something that maybe is not quite coded to work as it should, or of course could just be a shortcoming of the model. 25 to 30, development naturally slows down or halts completely. Playing a lot at a high level is still key in these ages, and injuries do start mattering a bit. There's a fast increase in the growth impact when the determination is up to 10, but that past 10 it kind of slows down. Professionalism should be at least 6, and after that it has a pretty small influence. And for the first time we do see some evidence of training facilities actually mattering. And finally, in the decay phase past 30, margin, I didn't highlight that, but yes, margin does not matter, but this current ability does matter. The higher the current ability, the faster the fall. Professionalism is the undisputed king of the hidden abilities in Stop and Decay. Ambition needs to be 7, but then it doesn't really seem to matter. Training facilities do not affect player decay at all. League reputation doesn't seem to have a big impact. If you have Modric playing for Real Madrid, or for Luton Town, or Grimsby Town, it doesn't matter, really. And the training facilities of those clubs also don't matter in decay. So injuries will have a very large impact in this stage of the career, and to try and stop that decay, you should be looking to play at least 3,000 minutes. If you play less, that could really halt, well, not halt your growth, you're not growing, but really accelerate your decay. So that is all I have. I don't know how long this video has been, but do let me know any feedback, any criticism, as long as it's presented in a constructive way. Let me know what else you'd like to see. I'm really looking forward to use machine learning to better our understanding of Football Manager. I have some ideas in mind, so obviously this one's more focused on the hidden attributes, but there was a lot of discussion in this FM about some attributes not mattering at all in terms of actual match performance. There was a whole debate. I was not really around when that debate was coming, so I would be pretty late to the party, but I do have some ideas on how to do my own research on that. And so if you like this content, do like the video, comment down below, and just let me know what else you'd like to see. As I said, I don't know if this is going to be a full-blown channel or if it's just a one-off. So one thing, the full code is going to be in the GitHub down below. So all of the code that I've used in this work is going to be linked in the description, so you can check it out yourself if you're into data science, if you have any knowledge of this, or if you're just curious. Absolutely, you can just go and take a look. So that is all for me, and have a nice day.